Welcome to From Seed to Pantry. In this channel, I will be guiding you through the steps on starting your garden from seed all the way through preserving your garden at the end of the season. In today's episode, we'll be talking about square foot gardening, which is an easy and effective way of getting maximum yield out of very small spaces. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced gardener, planning is the key to success. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to have to do is establish where we're going to put our garden. So when choosing your garden location, make sure you choose a location that gets 6 to 8 hours of sunshine at minimum. You want to make sure it doesn't get too much shade, and you want to make sure it's close to your water source for easy maintenance. So the next step in the process is determining how big you want your garden to be. If you're doing raised beds, the most common size for raised beds is 4 foot by 4 foot raised beds. You can do any size you like. I just wouldn't go any bigger than 4 foot, otherwise you're going to have problems reaching everywhere in your garden without stepping in it. For me, I have several different raised beds. My main garden is 20 foot by 12. It's a C-shaped garden. I kind of have a drawing of it here. So as you see, I have a C-shaped garden here with a path in the middle, and you can walk all the way around it. At no point in the garden is it any more than 4 feet. I also have several smaller beds. These ones are 3 foot by 3 foot, and this one is 2 foot by 5 foot. So it all depends on what you're growing, how much garden space you have, but make sure your beds aren't more than 4 foot. Otherwise, it'll be difficult to reach everything in your beds. So the next part of the process is actually drawing out your raised beds so we can plan them appropriately. So you can use grid paper for this. You can use Microsoft Word or Excel. In this case, I use Microsoft Word. So in Microsoft Word, you can have it draw the tables, the size of your gardens. So in my case, my main garden here is 20 foot by 12 foot. I have 5 3 foot by 3 foot gardens and 1 2 foot by 5 foot garden. So each one of these squares on here represents 1 square foot. So you're going to need that information in order to do the next step of the process. So our next step, now that we have our garden layout set up, we need to figure out how many of each of the plants we can put per square foot. So in order to figure that out, so you can take a look at the back of your seed packet. In this case, we have a butter crunch lettuce. So this one requires 8 inches apart. Our variety of onions we have here also are 8 inches apart. Our broccoli, those require 12 inches of space. Our carrots says plant spacing 2 to 3 inches apart. When it gives you a range there, I tend to fail on the conservative side and go towards the 3 inches. That way I'm getting larger carrots. And then for our tomatoes and our peppers require 18 inches of spacing and our tomatoes require 24 inches of spacing. So we have those numbers now. We can now put those and actually figure out how much we can put per square foot. All right, now that we know the spacing for our plants, let's put them in square foot grids. So let's start with broccoli. That's the easy example to start with. So broccoli we know needs 12 inches of spacing. So each one of these square foot grids is 12 inches by 12 inches. So for every square foot, we can fit 1 broccoli plant. All right, carrots. Carrots need 3 inches between each carrots. So if each grid is 12 inches by 12 inches and they need 3 inches apart, it means you can fit 4 carrots per row and have 4 rows of carrots. So for each square foot, you can have 16 carrots. Lettuce you need 8 inches between each plant. So that doesn't really evenly fit into each square foot. So I typically do these in 2 foot squares. So I have a 24 inch by 24 inch square here. So for every lettuce plant, I need 8 inches between them. So 24 divided by 8 is 3. So I got 3 lettuces per row. And then for each 2 foot grid, I can fit 3 rows. So 3 by 3. So for every 2 square feet, I have 9 lettuce plants. Now peppers and tomatoes, they require a lot more space. In case of tomatoes, they need 24 inches. So again, I'll do another 2 by 2 grid and place 1 tomato plant in the middle of the 2 by 2 grid. Peppers, I'll typically do the same thing. Technically, you can put them a little closer together as they need 18 inches, but for planting purposes, the 2 by 2s work pretty well. So that's it. You can kind of figure this out on your own. Look at your seed packets, figure out the spacing, draw out your grids, and you can figure out how much per square you can plant for each of the vegetables you're going to plant. So the last part of your garden planning is looking at companion planting and succession planting. Companion planting is when you plant things together that will mutually benefit each other, such as basil and tomatoes. Basil puts out strong scents, which will deter bugs that like to eat the tomatoes. Things that you want to avoid putting together would be like beans and onions. There's various apps and websites out there that'll kind of walk you through the steps of companion planting. The other thing is succession planting. Succession planting is basically planting things once something in your garden is done growing for the season, such as lettuce. Lettuce will typically grow from in upstate New York from April to about mid-July, bolt, go to seed, and then it's done. Succession planting would be pulling out the lettuce and planting something new in there, such as beans, which starts their season about June, July, and goes through the rest of the season. And that's it. With a little bit of planning, your square foot garden will be efficient and productive all season long. If you've enjoyed this episode from Seed Pantry, please give me a like, subscribe, and leave a comment on what your gardening plans are for this year. On the next episode, we'll be going over starting seeds indoors. I'll see you next time.